That's a fact. Here I am. Here we are. Rolling along here on this Thursday in the Q's. Hot one, people. Man. Hot one. I'm saying 95 degrees feels like 98. Just stay cool. Do something to do what Dan Duggan was doing. Go find a pool. Get in the pool. Get it ready to go. There's definitely storms rolling through the night because 95 feels like 98 today. Tomorrow it's in the 70s. So, oh boy, there's going to be some stuff coming through here tonight. It would seem. We'll see. We'll see if our next guest is staying cool. So we got Mike McAllister, publisher of Syracuse on Fan Nation. Mike, you staying cool today? You keeping it together out there? It is freaking hot outside.
I'm doing my best. I'm trying not to go outside if at all possible. So.
Yeah, I have succeeded in that endeavor for much of the day. I got here, and I'm still here. That's it. Like outside, I could walk outside in 3 seconds, but who wants the trouble? All right. I've been talking about this today, Mike. It really has nothing to do with sports, but at the same time, it might going forward. Like this Threads. I think I saw you hopped on Threads. I clicked the button. I'm on Threads. Is this going to be like our meeting place for live sports, or do you think Twitter's going to hang on? Who you got in the upcoming Threads versus Twitter rumble that is clearly gaining on us?
I mean, obviously, Twitter they should be the favorite, right? Because they've been established and they've got a pretty substantial customer base and all of that. But there's clearly a lot of frustration with the way that things have gone since Elon took over in a number of realms, some of which delves into politics, some of which does not, and is just functionality. And so there's going to be people, I think, that are going to hop over to other platforms. That's one. Blue Sky is another, which I believe is created by the former creator of Twitter.
Yeah, so one of the former guys is there, I think.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But I'll be on Twitter as long as it exists. I'll be on Threads and other platforms as well. So, hit me up on one of those. I'm also on Instagram, and, hopefully we'll be able to interact and have some fun talking about sports and complaining about officials. So
exactly. That's all we need, Mike. Like we need to know which one's going to win, right? Because we all need to be in the same place during the game so we can complain about the refs. Like, this is what it's all about. If we're all in different places, it doesn't work as well.
No, and as much as people might think to the contrary, yelling at officials in my living room by myself with no one else around is not as fun as doing it on Twitter and having a bunch of people tell me, "Yeah, you're right, these officials stink," or "You're an idiot, stop complaining about the officials." It's much more fun to do it on social media.
That's all I'm asking. Like, we need to be in the same place. We need to be in the same place to do it. So if somebody can, like Twitter, they're trying to ruin it. So hopefully they stop. Like, it's been the place to do this for the last decade. If it's going to be Threads, somebody needs to figure this out before football starts. That's all I ask.
Clock's ticking.
It is. We got literally, it's less than 2 months from today before the Syracuse opener, but we're still in the meat of year season here, recruiting season. It's always recruiting season, but originally, at least as of a few days ago, today was going to be the day of the announcement of potentially Syracuse's biggest get this season, if he had said Syracuse, and Willie Love. And he has pushed it off. And he had a group of 7. Now he's saying, hey, it might be beyond the 7 wherever I go. What do you make of everything we've heard from this defensive back out of Jersey, Willie Love, this week?
Well, if you're looking at it from a Syracuse perspective, you're a Syracuse fan and you want to get this kid, then I think the fact that he postponed is actually a good thing, because I believe if he had made his decision today, it would have been Rutgers. They were the favorite, I think, going into the month of June when, most prospects took official visits. That was the only school he took an official visit to, and a lot of people thought he was going to commit on that visit. He did not, and Syracuse has been involved, but Syracuse also had turnover in its secondary, in its defensive coaching staff. So because of that turnover, they kind of had to reestablish the relationships between what his potential future position coach would be and himself. So I think Syracuse is in that stage now. This gives them more time to establish that relationship, gives them time to get him on campus for a visit with the new coaches, either sometime this fall or, even into the winter. And yeah, it's possible other schools could get in the mix, but at the same time, it's not like he's an unknown quantity or he's kind of flown under the radar and is all of a sudden, bursting onto the scene and everyone's trying to figure out who the heck this kid is. He plays for a well-known program in New Jersey. It's called Eastside High now. It used to be called Woodrow Wilson High School. And he's been a very highly rated, highly regarded prospect in New Jersey for, a couple of years. So everyone knows who he is. So this isn't new. So I think this gives Syracuse a chance to develop that relationship a bit and, kind of see how things play out from that perspective.
I'd say, Mike, it's almost refreshing in some ways. Like I'd say a lot of these high school kids, like they say they're going to commit on a date, and even if they're having second thoughts, they do, and then we're decommits and the whole thing. Like it's not a bad thing to say, hey, I need more time. Like that, it may be a different way to go about it in this day and age, but it's not exactly the worst thing for him.
No, I agree, and I think that's kind of what this is trying to do is, listen, I just want to make sure I am completely 100% there. I don't want to do let me commit somewhere. I'll sort of secure my spot. I'll keep looking around in case there's something that's better, and then, maybe I'll flip last minute at signing day, and then everyone's ticked off then, right? So, if you're a Rutgers fan that wants this kid and, he delays his decision, I understand if you thought you were the favorite going into it, why that would be upsetting. But at the same time, there's always a chance that he continues to look around, as is the case with all recruits. So, is it better that he delays his decision and just makes it once, or is it better that he picks your school right now, but then, continues to look at other schools? You kind of got to hold your breath until signing day. I think that the approach where you take a step back and try to make sure you only make the decision once is the more mature, better suited approach to it.
Yeah, so I'd say we appreciate him for that. And, if he were to pick Cuse, he would add to this Jersey haul. It's up to 6 already that have verbal. Like, this is as hard as, Syracuse obviously has had plenty of Jersey guys, but this is as hard as they've hit Jersey, it feels like, in a long time. What do you make of this renewed emphasis of Dino Babers and his staff? You look at the hiring and the staff, the recruits, like they are clearly actively doing this down in Jersey right now.
Yeah, and I think you can point to a couple of the hires this offseason specifically. One is, kind of goes a little bit more under the radar, but I believe his title is Director of High School Relations. His name is Dennis Thomas, and he's very well respected in New Jersey. He's a former head coach at Millville High School, which ironically is where Teron Holly is committed from. And so the fact that he was there and very well respected and well known, and he's got established ties all over the state, I think that helped Syracuse a lot. But also, getting Nunzio Campanelli from Rutgers over here. He's been recruiting New Jersey for several years. His brother is a high school coach in the state, so he's very well known. His family is well known there and very well respected. That certainly helps when you're trying to grab a bunch of highly regarded prospects from that state, is having those relationships. So that certainly helps. And then, I think also look at what Syracuse has done in New York. I know they had the Sayer Torrance situation where he was committed and decommitted, and now he's with Michigan State. But there hasn't been a ton of success in New York this class either. I don't believe they have anyone in their class currently committed, but there's really only been a couple of prospects that they've really, went after in the state. So I think, there could have just been the way that the class worked out in terms of positions of need and the prospects that they like and that they prioritize, that you just happen to have a little bit more in New Jersey than what you might have anticipated going in.
What do you make of this, Mike? And I don't know why this would be. Like, why is there, it feels like there is always more players in Jersey than New York. There are more people in New York than New Jersey. It's not like it's a different part of the country. Why is it that Jersey is such a pipeline when it's not really the case for New York?
There's nothing logical about it. It's just always has been that way. For decades. But, there are some instances when you can find guys that are under the radar, because sometimes the reputation can be a detriment to some of the under the radar prospects in New York State, in that you don't get as many schools that are just coming through on a regular basis to evaluate things as they do in New Jersey. I also think there's a greater emphasis on it as far as off-season training, 7-on-7 teams, those types of things. I think New York's getting better there, but New Jersey has been doing those types of things, going to camps across the country for exposure for a lot longer than New York does or has on a general basis. So that plays a part in it, but the reputation kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy in that everyone knows New Jersey is talented, so schools from across the country, their coaches are going into New Jersey to evaluate prospects every year. New York has a reputation of not being that way, so far fewer go through. Therefore, more New Jersey players get offered and commit than New York. Part of that is a talent thing, but it's also partly an exposure thing. I think those things kind of play off each other a little bit, and that's that tends to be how it kind of works out. But also the largest land mass, which is basically outside of New York City in New York State. There's maybe 1 to 2 Division I prospects that come out of it each recruiting cycle.
Right.
It's just not, for whatever reason, it's just not a hotbed of college football prospects.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I mean, part of it, you're right. It's the perception is reality. But, man, Jersey's huge out there. Like Texas, Florida, California, that all makes sense. I've always found it strange. But Mike McAllister's with us now. And we didn't get to talk about LaQuint Allen. I don't think the last time we talked. That news broke, I want to say literally later in the day, the last time you were on the show. So it was not a thing yet, and then became a huge thing after that. Are you hearing any ripples of what's going on with LaQuint? And he is a Jersey guy in the recruiting world. How much is this something you've noticed that high school students are paying attention to, and how this potentially works out down the line?
Well, I haven't heard anything as far as how it's impacted Syracuse's ability to, recruit certain players. But what I have seen is I've seen the football world kind of in general. There are high school players in New Jersey that know who LaQuint Allen is, and
right.
He's someone that they know who he is. And I've seen them, on social media with the hashtag Let LaQuint Play, on Instagram, Twitter, etc. So they've certainly noticed. I don't know that it's necessarily being looked at as a referendum on Syracuse per se, something that could inhibit their ability to recruit that state. Perhaps that would be dependent on how it ends up playing out, but I haven't seen much in terms of that, but I have certainly seen a lot of high school players in New Jersey, some that Syracuse is recruiting, some that are not, some that are committed elsewhere, and, have all seemed to rally behind the idea that he was not treated fairly during that process.
You never know. Something like this, it can hammer you in recruiting, or it can vanish. It's one of those things you never quite know how it's going to hit out there. Mike, I wanted to ask you before we let you go about the new NIL law officially signed by Governor Hochul earlier this week. How do you think Syracuse takes advantage of this, Mike, when it comes to everything involved in the NIL? What's your sense of, realistically how this is going to affect Syracuse?
Well, I don't think it's going to change much in how they approach things because I think they're a little bit risk-averse, but it certainly offers more protection from someone trying to make an accusation that there was a pay-for-play type of situation or something was done inappropriately in the NIL realm at Syracuse in terms of an NCAA investigation. Because essentially what the law says, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I consulted with lawyers in order to make sure that I understood what I was talking about and to get their opinion. And, I used the phrase with a friend of mine, tell it to me like I'm 5, so that I could try to make sense of it. And essentially it's that it strips the NCAA's power to investigate, hold accountable, and punish a school in New York State for any type of violation related to the NIL. Because the law specifically says that the NCAA cannot punish, including taking wins away, including or not allowing them to participate in postseason events. It's things of that nature, suspending players for any violation of NCAA rules regarding NIL. So it's essentially saying none of the NCAA rules apply in New York State at all regarding NIL, which in theory, now this hasn't been challenged and worked out in court and gone to higher courts and all that stuff, but if you just took it at face value, that would essentially mean Syracuse could come out and say, we're going to go pay that guy this amount of money to come play for us, and the NCAA couldn't do anything about it. Now, I don't think it's going to ultimately work that way. I don't think anybody wants it to work that way, but I do think that Syracuse feels like they've got a little bit of protection because I know Syracuse has felt targeted by the NCAA in the past, most notably with the Jim Boeheim investigation, or the Syracuse basketball investigation that resulted in Boeheim getting his wins taken away. So this I think is simply that they feel a little bit more protected than perhaps they did before the law was passed.
Yeah, that's my sense of it. Like, I mean, there's ways, and I'm sure some schools will do this, that will take laws like this and just run amok. But I don't get the sense that what Syracuse is planning to do with it. All right, Mike, good stuff as always. I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Stay cool out there and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right, that is Mike McAllister. Check all his stuff out, Fan Nation, of course, or Threads, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Red Sky, Red Sky at night, Sailor's Delight, Red Sky and Morn, Sailor be warned. How does that apply? Is that a social media site yet? When will it be? I don't know. I can't keep up with it all. Somebody just tell me where to go at the start of football season, and then we'll all meet there. I don't know who gets to make this decision, but somebody's got to figure that out. All right, we'll take a break. Always good to chat with Mike. We're back after this. Tim Leonard in, little 4-on-1 in the 315. We'll talk about something next year on this hour, brought to you by Burdick BMW. Right after this, QSportsTalk.com and ESPN Radio.